So now we can start. So we're really happy to welcome you here together with Elmar Usman. So he will present himself.
Hello.
He's
Welcome.
from Germany, from We Learn It. So he will, we will share the floor to facilitate this conference. And our main speakers are here. So there are 5 of them. And so the thematic of the conference is what does it mean to be a teacher in digital age? So for us it was important to start actually with Malika because she's a teacher in primary school in France, and she's actually using new technologies with kids that are 6 years old. So she will share a bit what it means for her the idea of technopedagogy, this idea from Norbert, and share a bit your own experience as a teacher using new technologies with really small kids. Raconter ton parcours en tant qu'enseignant utilisant les nouvelles technologies, Twitter en classe, etc.
Bonjour à tous. Donc, je suis enseignante dans une classe de CP depuis plusieurs années. J'ai une bonne expérience et j'ai commencé il y a à peu près 3-4 ans à introduire les nouvelles technologies dans la classe. Bon, tout doucement par un TNI, ensuite des tablettes, des PC. Donc actuellement, j'ai une classe de CP avec une dizaine de PC qui est un peu le fait d'un hasard, puisque c'est une société qui me les a offerts au niveau de la classe, une dizaine de tablettes, et puis donc aujourd'hui j'utilise ces outils tout au long de la journée, avec des formules différentes, des ateliers différents qui sont surtout tournés autour de la production, de la lecture et de l'écriture. Donc, ce qui était intéressant avec ces outils, notamment la tablette plus que sur le PC, c'est de pouvoir travailler en atelier et puis de faire collaborer les enfants ensemble autour d'une consigne écrite de production qu'on peut leur donner. Et l'outil est très attractif, donc tout de suite, ils s'en sont emparés très facilement. Aujourd'hui, donc, ils ont chacun leur petit dossier individuel. Donc, quand ils produisent quelque chose, ils peuvent l'envoyer très facilement dans leur dossier. Donc, toute cette gestion de la tablette, de l'environnement tablette, avec des CP, on se rend compte qu'en fin d'année, il y a une maîtrise qui va très vite et qui se fait très rapidement. Donc la plus-value pour l'enseignant, c'est de pouvoir justement différencier et de travailler en atelier de manière plus sereine, parce que quand les enfants sont mobilisés autour de la tablette, on se rend compte que oui, le travail se fait avec plaisir, motivation, surtout quand on les engage à produire, à la fois écrire, mais à agencer leur écriture avec de l'illustration, avec éventuellement des enregistrements audio. Donc toutes ces fonctions multiples qu'offre la tablette, créent un enthousiasme, un plaisir à travailler. Et c'est vrai que de mon côté, moi, ça me permet de travailler différemment avec d'autres, avec des petits lecteurs, de manière à adapter ma pédagogie à ces enfants. Donc,
maybe I will just translate a few words for the non-French speaker. So Malika is a French primary teacher. She's using Twitter and the iPads in schools. What is interesting is that she's using these technologies to, in a meaningful way, to have the kids read and write with this purpose. She has done a great exchange between the elderly people in a retirement home and the kids, and so they went to the retirement home, and the elderly people came back to the school, and then they continued to exchange through Twitter, and so it was what was interesting is that it was not just read and write as an exercise, but really with the purpose of exchanging with elderly people. So just a small translation.
Voilà, donc alors sur le terme technopédagogie, c'est vrai que j'ai avancé tout doucement au niveau de ma réflexion, et c'est vrai qu'aujourd'hui les technologies vont modifier ma pédagogie, et c'est l'interaction entre les deux qui vont faire apparaître des situations pédagogiques nouvelles. Twitter en est une, puisque communiquer rapidement avec une autre classe à l'autre bout du monde, puisqu'on avait fait des échanges avec le Canada aussi, avec d'autres classes dans le sud autour d'un projet mathématique qui est simplement l'utilisation du compteur numérique. Alors le compteur papier qu'on a habituellement en classe, ben, le fait de pouvoir échanger et faire avancer ce compteur à travers Twitter et une autre classe à l'extérieur, ben, c'est quelque part modifier sa pédagogie, modifier sa classe, modifier son organisation et donc faire apparaître ce qu'on peut appeler aujourd'hui la technopédagogie parce qu'on se rend compte qu'il y a d'autres possibles qui s'ouvrent et c'est ce mélange qui est intéressant puisque aujourd'hui pédagogiquement, ben, c'est vrai que c'est comme l'introduction de la vidéo, c'est vrai que pouvoir filmer les enfants, les mettre en situation de se regarder lire, de se regarder apprendre, et ben c'est aussi bousculer un peu nos habitudes pédagogiques. Donc c'est en cela que bon, il y a une réelle plus-value en termes de travail et c'est autour de cela que j'entends le terme technopédagogie.
Do you help on the translation? Or? No, okay.
I let you do it because you're the native French speaker.
Je parle vite.
Non, ça va. S'il y a quelqu'un d'autre qui veut aider à la traduction, vous êtes les bienvenus. Ou si vous avez un voisin qui parle les deux langues, you can pair up maybe with a French speaker, so that it's like whispering translation will ease a little bit the process. So can you pair with someone that is bilingual? Yes, okay. Everyone is next, has a neighbor next door, next to you. Ok, bon, we'll do that then. Est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un qui est sans père capable de traduire pour lui? Bon, du coup, je vais m'économiser ça. Ok, génial. Alors, thank you, Malika. We'll come back to. On va revenir vers toi après. We'd like to ask to Marty now. So Marty is on the other side of the spectrum because you are a teacher at the University of Aalto in Finland. So maybe you can say a little bit about what is Aalto University. What do you do there in the design department? And you worked a lot on virtual learning environment. So maybe you can share a little bit what you think about this virtual learning environment with the audience.
Okay. Actually, I have a double perspective to the issue. I used to work about 10 years as a professor and director of a master degree program for artists, designers, photographers, and so on to get the master degree, and we got some extra funding from state to develop a program which is nearly totally based on e-learning idea. We had only 5 weeks contact teaching and the rest of the year on our web using different kind of tools. And because they were artists, designers, architects, we put a lot of effort on using visualization and visual elements, and we were a kind of kindergarten or playground to test different kind of ideas using Second Life, different kind of 3D environments and so on, just playing, testing how to make learning happen. But during the last 5 years, I have been the vice president of Aalto University in charge of education and focused on new approach on learning and teaching. So Aalto University is a kind of experiment in Finland. We are merging together technology, business and design. And we have about 20,000 students, and we have several platforms to have a new kind of approach to learning and teaching. Very much hands-on doing. We have platforms called Design Factory, where students from different disciplines comes together to work with company people, and we do a lot of prototypes and that kind of things. So we're trying to change the academic way of teaching and learning. It's not easy. It's very difficult. Academic world is very conservative. And a part of that is this digital shift, which is happening everywhere in lower secondary school, upper secondary school, every school level. And what I think is crucial is to understand that this is not the issue of the school as such. This is the issue of the society and all communities. And school is only part of that. And your example was very, very nice from that perspective.
Ok. Donc, ça va? Okay. Thank you. We just switched to Norbert and on with one question. So you are a professor at the London Education Institute, so one or the best university for education in the world. So that's what I've read. So I don't know. Maybe you will tell more about that. So according to you, like new technologies can really help the educator to assess the students. Can you maybe share a little bit what you think about using new technologies to develop assessment, but that will be used for really capacity building and not just for sanction?
Thank you very much, and thanks to you for coming and listening to the debate. I have to correct you on one thing. We're not one of the best, we are the best according to the QS education rankings of 2014, ahead of any university you care to name in the world. So I think that's a tiny but important point. In my day job, I am similar to what we've just heard, responsible for the quality of teaching and learning at the university, and clearly the use of technology plays a very, very important role in that. So very recently I was involved in writing the learning and teaching strategy for our university for the next 4 years, and clearly we were very keen to make sure that technology was integrated into that learning and teaching strategy, both in the terms of virtual learning environments and online distance learning, but also importantly in terms of integrating technology most appropriately in everyday classroom-based work, and I'd like to say a little bit more about that later on. But you asked a specific question about the E and assessment. I was involved in a project on formative e-assessment a few years ago with one of the leading experts in assessment, a colleague of mine at the Institute, Dylan William. And in that project we tried to look at what can technology add to assessment, in particular formative assessment. And there's some obvious wins to be had, for example, around accelerating the speed with which tutors, teachers, lecturers are able to provide feedback to students. And we know from research that it's actually very important for feedback to be timely in order for students to want to pick it up and actually use it and act on it. Speed also supports rapid iteration, so looking at assessment not just as a summative end of process activity where you get a grade or a mark, but something that's iterative, that tries to help the learner develop. And from assessment research we know, of course, that one thing that is very important is for the learner to understand where they are at, where they need to go and what they need to do in order to bridge that gap, and therefore iteration is very important to help colleagues bridge that gap. Then of course it's interesting, technology is interesting in terms of storage capacity, because as we've heard a moment ago, visualization is very important, but visualization tends to be rather data intensive. So getting learners to use new technologies, to represent knowledge in new ways using multimodal artifacts, technology can help a lot in facilitating that particular process. Then of course you could think in traditional terms about using technology for automation of processes, which can help, and scale processes and make them adaptive. But from our point of view, I think in the project we thought that communication was actually quite an important element, in that technology enabled much richer and much more frequent and much more meaningful communication processes between teachers and learners around work that students were doing. And then of course finally the notion of learners actually constructing, creating together with peers artifacts that can be shared in meaningful ways is quite helpful, and the contribution that technology makes, not just to the sharing of those artifacts with the teachers, but to their creation in the first instance, I think that's where technology can come in.
Okay, so we saw that this debate could have several topics, so we would switch a bit from... the next topic is about the role of the teacher. In the role of the teacher, so we had, just this afternoon, we had a really nice event at the La Villette Science Center with about 400 kids, about the age, I would say, between 7, 8, perhaps up to 12. And we just asked them, so if they think they would be able to do things on mobile phones, iPads, PCs, internet devices that their parents are not able to do. And about 2/3 of them said yes. And already at this age, and I'm pretty sure that if you ask here, then the students would be able to do more things than probably a teacher or a professor will be able to do. So the question is what does this do to the role of the teacher? And I want to therefore to hand over to Olivier. So Olivier Crozet is the pedagogical director of this particular school, and by walking through your school, I've seen not really very many teachers. I've seen students, and obviously the school is open 24 hours per day, so there were even students sleeping here in the school.
But actually, you won't find any teacher here because we don't have any teacher. We decided to create this school using a very specific pedagogy, and actually it means that we don't have any teacher here, but for younger students we will still need teacher, but I think the role of the teacher will have to change completely to adapt to the new society, to be able to train students, to train children for the upcoming society. For me, the previous slide, I think, yeah. I'm just in front of it. It's too bad. This is the actual four principles that we used to for the pedagogy of here of School 42, and we have IT everywhere, beginning with all the selection, all the online selection. 1 year ago, at the creation of School 42, we had 70,000 people who applied online to come here to School 42. We had a huge online process, and this involves IT. Then we wanted to promote this new pedagogy, this completely at the opposite of the classic academic pedagogy, and we based it on these four principles. The first one here is the passion for IT, the passion for code. Our students are geek completely, and it means it's easy here. We are an IT school, an information technology school. Our curriculum is completely dedicated to information technology. And here, if I want to make a link and to make our experiment more larger, and to think about what's happening in primary school, in kindergarten, or in high school. I think here it's one of the first change in the role of the teacher. The teacher must have more freedom to choose wisely all the topics he wants to introduce in the class, and then to try to create this passion from all the children, try to make sense the children to the children. It means that the topic must be synchronized with the mood of the children, to the interest of the children, and it's I think it's a brand new job. I'm thinking about one of my kids, actually he's in high school, so have separate classes for separate topics, one class for math, one class for French learning and so on. Maybe in primary school teachers are closer to this kind of approach and to try to create this passion among the children. Our second point here is the knowledge access. We have an internet connection. Maybe you already saw all the computer rooms for the students here, and all our students have online access to all the knowledge that is available on the internet. And I think it's time for all the teachers to stop using time to transfer knowledge. It's more interesting right now to help the students, to help the children to seek for knowledge online. But of course, if you have access to the knowledge on your smartphone, if you can use Wikipedia on your smartphone, it doesn't mean that you are clever, of course. So what you need is the third point, is to create something, to practice. And here at School 42 we have a 100% project base. Our students are always practicing. This is the only conference room in the school, and students only have access to all the 3 computer rooms that are upstairs. And we are putting our students in, we are asking them to work in groups, we are asking them to do what we call peer learning. That's my main title here, because students, we don't give any kind of solution, we don't give any lecture. That's why we don't have any teacher here, and students have to debate, they have to create collective intelligence, and they have to find different ways and to select the better ways to reach the target. Target here at School 42 are only IT projects. They have to realize a piece of software. I think for a teacher in a school, it's a new kind of a new role of animation, because children won't do this what our students are doing here. Children won't work in group easily, so the teacher need to organize all this group in all this work group, all these debates between children, and maybe a plenary at the end of working groups, so children can exchange again of what they seek online, of what they realize with this knowledge, and then to exchange of the different point of views of students. The last point of our pedagogy is evaluation. Evaluation is something that is complicated because it exists in real life. We can't get rid of evaluation, but there is a problem of the stigmatization of failure, and usually this is something that just stop the motivation for children and for students. So we have to have a good balance between evaluation that is needed to for the students to know that everyone, every day will evaluate you. A customer in a company will make an evaluation of your products, and to avoid this stigmatization, because in the learning process we have failure, and we must have a place for this in the learning process. What we choose here is what we call peer correcting. Each student will have to make the evaluation of 10 other students in the community, and each student will receive evaluation from 10 other students in the community. From my point of view, this is still work in progress. I think we can still have some new ideas and try to change this way of evaluation. But from my point of view, in PLAKE, we must have peers in evaluation. This is mandatory from my point of view. So the teacher again will have to be able to find the good way of evaluating children, and maybe it's topic dependent, and maybe it's age dependent. So I think this is a real new role for the teacher, to have this freedom of the topics, the freedom of the evaluation system. And the first role of the teacher is to be someone who deals with pedagogy first, and not with the content. And IT can help for that. From my point of view, it's not a debate of will the IT replace the teacher or not, but maybe it's a union that we must have between teacher and IT. But for the teacher to be at ease with the IT, we must have teachers that first focus on pedagogy more than the content, from my point of view.
Okay, it's so I think now it's time also to involve the last person on the panel. So I don't want to speak into your back. So so this is Olivier Crozet.
No, Vincent.
Vincent Touati. You are 18 years old. That's what I read here, and you have just finished the trials of the baccalaureate. So you have the last years. I mean, you have sitted in a classroom, teacher in front, so the classical style of school teaching that we all know. At the same time, you're I think Florence made the contact to you because you have obviously done a fascinating documentary about the decline of private life and the rise of public life through internet.
Not yet.
Yeah, or you're working on this. And so we thought that was a really interesting topic, and we just wanted to get your impressions. So what you think about this? Does it make you dream? And what do you think about the school time that you have had so far, and you see something like this?
Alors effectivement, j'ai pas eu les mêmes profs que ici. J'ai plutôt été très étonnée de ce que j'ai vécu à l'école. Alors je dirais pas que c'est un traumatisme parce que j'ai pu m'émanciper grâce à Internet justement. Mais en tout cas, ce qui est sûr, c'est que j'ai pas aimé ce que j'ai vécu à l'école et que j'ai eu la chance, au travers de mon podcast qui s'appelle Convergence numérique, donc je traite les enjeux politiques, économiques et sociaux avec des gens que j'interviewe. J'ai eu la chance de découvrir d'autres façons de voir le monde, d'autres façons de voir l'éducation, la pédagogie et la connaissance. Et voilà, donc je suis conscient aussi que j'ai eu cette chance, que d'autres jeunes aussi à l'école 42, je pense, ont cette chance aussi de voir la pédagogie autrement. Pour moi, Internet, c'est vraiment un outil qui est émancipateur, et c'est là aussi qu'on voit qu'il y a quelque chose qui est différent avec les professeurs, c'est qu'en fait la relation dominante prof-élève n'existe plus à partir du moment où la connaissance est accessible à tous. C'est-à-dire qu'en fait, en classe, un professeur peut nous dire quelque chose, et puis nous, on peut dire, en ayant cherché sur Wikipédia, oui, mais c'est faux, et puis tel auteur a dit ça, mais oui, mais pourquoi vous en parlez pas? C'est pas assez pluriel. Donc, il y a quand même il peut y avoir un débat avec Internet, et effectivement, là où je vous rejoins, c'est de dire qu'en fait, les professeurs sont beaucoup plus un intermédiaire pour apprendre aux élèves à se saisir des outils, comment on cherche des informations sur Internet, comment on les critique avec les réalités. Le prof est là. C'est pour ça que je suis pas certain que les profs disparaissent, dans le sens où les profs sont aussi là pour donner un avis critique, pour susciter l'intérêt de l'élève, et puis pour nous, enfin, même le fait, même si j'ai pas aimé l'école, justement, le fait de pas avoir aimé l'école, ça m'a permis d'avoir un débat avec des professeurs qui ne me comprenaient pas et que je ne comprenais pas, mais il y a quand même eu un débat. Donc c'est ça aussi qui est intéressant avec l'école et avec les professeurs. Voilà.
Okay, so this sounds really interesting. So you've basically developed your own parallel way of learning, educating yourself, yeah?
Effectivement, en fait, ce que les digital natives, on appelle beaucoup les digital natives, des fois c'est la génération Y, des fois c'est les jeunes. Il y a beaucoup de pensées un peu conformistes, je dois l'avouer quand même, parce que bon, on est une entité, enfin je veux dire, on est des jeunes, on est des 18-25 ans, il y en a beaucoup, on n'est pas tous des digital natives, mais bon, voilà. En fait, on a été façonnés par Internet, c'est-à-dire qu'en fait, nos questions les plus intimes, on les a pas posées à un psychologue, on les a pas posées à nos parents, à nos meilleurs amis, on les a posées à Google. Et ça change beaucoup de choses dans notre manière de voir le monde, dans notre manière de voir les informations et dans notre manière de voir la pédagogie. Donc à partir du moment où à l'école on nous dit bah voilà, t'as un document, tu dois traiter le document, ça nous intéresse pas, parce que nous ce qu'on veut traiter c'est aller, on veut aller plus loin, on veut dire ouais il a raison, il a tort, ouais qu'est-ce que t'en penses, voilà, il y a vraiment tout un esprit de collaboration qu'on a développé nous les jeunes digital native avec Internet. Donc on ne peut plus voir en fait Internet, un monde sans Internet. Et aujourd'hui l'école est sans Internet. L'école telle qu'elle existe en France, donc on n'est plus compris dans ce système-là. Et il y a un journaliste qui s'appelle Jean-Marc Manac qui appelle ça plus communément les vieux cons. Voilà, il a écrit ça en 2010 dans un livre qui s'appelle La vie privée, un problème de vieux cons, mais c'est vraiment ça, quoi. C'est-à-dire qu'il y a des petits cons, nous, les jeunes, et des vieux cons qui cherchent en fait à résister, à maintenir une forme de connaissance, mais qu'ils n'ont plus. Tout simplement parce que en cherchant sur Google, on peut trouver la connaissance. Donc la clé, c'est la pédagogie. La clé, en fait, je crois que c'est beaucoup plus comment on transmet les choses. Et j'espère que dans les prochaines années, ça va changer. Mais ce qu'on voit ici, c'est que ça change beaucoup et à vitesse grand V.
Okay.
Je rebondis un peu sur ce que tu viens de dire, et je dirais que mieux que la pédagogie, je crois qu'il y a une culture à repartager entre des gens qui ont connu une certaine manière d'apprendre et puis bon, toi, tous ces jeunes qui arrivent et qui sont dans une autre culture, dans une autre dimension, dans un autre rapport au savoir, un rapport à son identité, un rapport à l'autre qui est complètement différent. C'est dans ce sens-là, je pense que plus que de la technologie, il faut essayer de faire partager cette culture à tous et faire entendre à ceux qui n'y sont pas encore dans cette culture. Et je sais qu'au sein de l'éducation nationale, oui, il y a encore plein de gens à essayer de convaincre, faire partager cette culture, leur faire comprendre qu'aujourd'hui, bon, ben, on n'a plus les mêmes enfants parce qu'ils sont dans un autre système, une autre manière d'interagir avec Internet, avec leurs camarades, avec les connaissances, et qu'il faut l'entendre. Voilà.
Yes, I think you made a very nice statement by saying that the world, as we know it now, couldn't work without the internet, but the school is still doing it. And so I will pass back the word to the pedagogical professor, to Norbert. And I think the other aspect in what you said is also the question of motivation. So I think we have these two things. Also from the way how you're telling it, I think we can see that this is just something that also motivates you. So it's really something that can be fun, that learning can be fun. I think we can see the same thing here at École 42. So motivation, I think, is one thing. And the other question is why is the school still the place without the internet? Norbert.
I think that is an assertion that I don't think holds universally true, that the school is the place without the internet. I've been to very many a classroom that's really used technology in interesting ways. I think one thing that I would probably say is that we need to try and move away from a fetishization of technology and talk more about learning and use that as our starting point. And I think there's a lot to be had by looking at what we mean by learning in the 21st century, and then look at what affordances technology might offer to help us actually harness the processes that we understand from research to be part of learning. We haven't got the time now to deconstruct what learning is, but it's certainly not about the maybe some traditional assumptions of memorizing facts and reproducing them in exams. But I think what it is about and what it should be about in the 21st century, the internalization and externalization around semiotic work with cultural artifacts and resources. And if we looked at learning like that, we would immediately start to see how important the everyday life world of us all becomes, and how technology, particularly mobile technology that is connected to the internet, and through its connectivity, connected to networks, to resources, to all sorts of features, makes us actually exist in and go through the world in new ways and look at it as a constant learning opportunity that poses challenges to us, rather than learning as something that's confined in a box that's called the classroom. What I would want to say a few words about is how I would want us to look at technology, because clearly we can't just treat it as a black box, and we should be trying to define it. And my particular way, personal way of trying to do that is through this metaphor or notion of affordances. If we think about technology as something that can help us collaborate and communicate, and we try and find tools that support that, and ways in which communication and collaboration, which are such important elements of learning, are foregrounded in the classroom, we've started to go a long way. And I think I want to come back again as another important feature to multimodality, the ability to combine different modes, like the spoken word, the written word, the moving word, images, into new artifacts. So move away from traditional text. So when I read about projects with iPads and tablets, and then I read that the policymakers think that by delivering e-books to classrooms, that's effective use of new technologies, I really start to worry. Yes, of course, knowledge distribution is a very important element of the affordance of technology, but I think it's the collaboration around knowledge construction that's important, not disseminating knowledge in the form of PDFs and stuff like that. Another important feature, I think, is around authenticity that is afforded by and through technology. It allows learning to become situated and not remain something abstract that the individual learner then has to translate and apply to his or her own context, but that they can, through technology, study issues and processes, content in context. And from the research that I do personally is in part around e-learning in the context of the professional learning of teachers. I've worked in that for about 10 years. And over the last 5 years or so, it's been in the field of mobile learning, working with young people, particularly young people who might be thought of as at risk of not doing well in school in the context of sort of measures such as PISA and stuff like that. And what I think we are seeing in our work with those young people is the affordance of technology around not just user-generated content, which is positive, but user-generated contexts. The learner being able to create his or her own meaningful learning context that takes into account his or her definition of meaningfulness and what is real and important and relevant to the learner at any given time, because that's what drives their motivation to be able to construct a meaningful learning environment through technology, through that, using collaboration tools, using visualization tools, using those sorts of things. So yes, let's talk about technology by all means, but let's not talk about it in, you know, in terms of the only and the most important factor. I do think that there is, and agreeing I think with my colleague, there is merit to be had in talking about pedagogy as well, and in particular the role of teacher as a person providing scaffolding in various different ways to learners. And I'm absolutely with you in the importance of peer support, peer learning and all of that. But I think that the role of the teacher hasn't been confined to the history of time just yet. I think the teacher continues to have an important role, but the teacher needs to develop particular dispositions around pedagogical actions that understands the affordances of technology and use them in meaningful ways.
Yes, I think we agree on that. And maybe Malika, you can share a little bit more about how do you create a context, so a new learning environment in your own school, and how the learners are actually better learners because they are connected to their own desire of learning and also connected to the others, so learning a lot from the others. So can you explain a bit more about the learning environment in your own school?
Donc, oui. Alors, ma pédagogie en classe, donc c'est ça. Et le contexte. Alors, c'est vrai qu'il y a un environnement à créer et une posture d'élève à recréer. Je pense que c'est surtout ça, une posture autour de, on va voyager toute une année ensemble, on va partager des connaissances, mais l'enseignant, on va transmettre des choses, mais vous, entre vous, vous allez pouvoir aussi échanger. Donc ça a été mon introduction en début d'année. On est tous là ensemble à apprendre, mais tout le monde peut collaborer à l'apprentissage de tout le monde. On a inévitablement des décalages, surtout au CP, en lecture, des enfants qui lisent bien, des enfants qui vont démarrer plus tard. Donc, il est indispensable de les faire se tutorer, de les faire se collaborer. Donc, avant d'introduire les outils, ou en même temps, on va maçonner et on va rappeler ces règles, ces conduites à avoir entre pairs pour que justement le savoir puisse s'installer de manière sereine, mais aussi de manière collaborative. Et l'outil tablette facilite les choses parce que on n'a plus ce regard évaluateur, on n'a plus de rature quand on écrit sur une tablette. On écrit des mots, on peut corriger, on peut aider son camarade à recorriger, on peut aider son camarade à relire sur une tablette, sur un écran. Donc l'erreur disparaît. Donc ça facilite parce que les enfants du coup partagent beaucoup plus facilement. Et c'est pas parce qu'ils partagent qu'ils n'apprennent pas. Bien au contraire. Je pense que celui qui en sait plus, c'est sûr qu'en devenant tuteur, va renforcer sa confiance. Mais en ce qui me concerne, j'ai été plus loin parce que les petits lecteurs, eux sont allés tutorer les grandes sections en maternelle. Donc j'ai essayé de trouver un espace de respiration aussi pour mes petits lecteurs, pour qu'ils puissent eux aussi aller aider d'autres enfants plus jeunes dans l'apprentissage. Donc il y a vraiment une ambiance à créer, et puis un travail qui n'est plus frontal, un travail qui se fait en atelier, un travail différencié où on va d'un côté lâcher le groupe classe pour s'occuper d'un autre groupe, et puis accompagner donc plus sérieusement un groupe. Alors quand je suis en atelier différencié avec trois groupes, bon, il y a un groupe qui va réinvestir un travail déjà fait sur tablette, éventuellement avec une capsule de consolidation, un groupe qui va être avec moi, qui va reproduire des connaissances, pendant qu'un autre groupe va lui réutiliser le papier pour travailler et consolider d'autres choses. Donc on tourne sur les ateliers, et puis les enfants sont contents parce que cette formule en atelier, on sent que ça répond à leurs besoins, qu'ils sont bien plus heureux quand ils sont en autonomie et quand ils s'impliquent par eux-mêmes dans leur travail. Et on les voit changer, on voit leur posture se modifier. En fin d'année, c'est vrai qu'on n'a plus les mêmes enfants. Il y a des mots qui disparaissent, ils se corrigent plus facilement sans avoir un regard sur t'as raté ou des choses comme ça disparaît. Voilà. Mais c'est vrai que du coup, il y a une pédagogie installée, la technologie va accompagner, va donc prolonger le dispositif de classe. Et là, bon, si j'en parle rapidement, il y a ce robot qu'on a introduit là dernièrement qui me fascine, parce que on a eu la chance via le CRDP de Versailles d'avoir un prêt d'un petit robot, Nao, que vous connaissez par ailleurs, je suppose. Et alors, je l'ai mis en scénario, c'est-à-dire que j'ai scénarisé via son programme informatique un apprentissage pédagogique autour de la numération. J'ai demandé à un élève, alors il faut interagir avec le robot, c'est un peu compliqué, donc on ne lui parle pas, on interagit en appuyant sur une des parties de son corps, et il y a un enfant qui est le petit maître, donc il va s'occuper d'un petit groupe d'enfants, donc ils sont 6 autour d'une table, autour de Nao, et Nao va lancer le programme, lance le programme, et donc l'enfant interagit avec le robot, et vérifier que les enfants ont bien réalisé la tâche avant de leur lancer la suite du programme, et on peut aller jusqu'à une séquence d'apprentissage où on va consolider la numération, faire une dictée de mots, un calcul mental, question de lecture. On a été jusque-là. Alors le petit maître est très fier, parce que c'est lui qui interagit avec Nao. Les autres ont bien compris que cet outil allait les accompagner dans le travail, et ça marche. Je suis moi-même la première bluffée, mais à 7 ans, ils sont fascinés par l'outil. Ils ont envie d'aller travailler avec Nao, donc ils y vont avec plaisir, et ils le font en autonomie. Voilà, donc ça c'est tout neuf, c'est ce que je fais depuis 15 jours, 3 semaines, et c'est vrai que ça marche.
Yeah, so based on this, as a question to Marty now. Again, I think also from what you have been saying, so you've been using a lot of technology in class that was not really learning technology in that sense, but you have been using Twitter and so the technology that we all know, and that is not really shaped just for the learning space. Marty, what do you think about this point? Is it rather about using the technologies, the internet capabilities that we use in other parts of our life, our private lives and so on, using this in education? And is the question perhaps less to invent learning technologies, but rather to have specific skills, media skills and so on, and to support that the teacher supports the student in this respect?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so that, let's say, innovative ways to use different kind of technologies, or coming back to this learning idea. What is learning, and what does it happen there? And perhaps I shortly come back to this role of a teacher. I read an interesting interview last autumn. It was the coach of Finnish national basketball team. Actually, he was also the coach of German national basketball team, and he said that I think that the role of teacher is more coming as a coach, and this Henrik Detman says that coaching, there are 3 elements. One is that there is respect to the game. So how you teach students to respect the game, or players respect the game, deep understanding and passion. So there must be a passionate teacher on the background, so that he or she has a deep understanding and to build a strong motivation is based on that. And learning is not always fun. It's sometimes hard work, hours and hours, failures, success and so on. It's not fun always. But if you have this deep understanding, it builds this motivation, and that's the basis. And the second one is that you are an enabler, so that you enable students to learn, help them to learn. But besides that, you are learning by yourself. And that's quite relaxing to a teacher, that I'm learning too, and I can learn together with my students. And the third one is actually the hardest one, is that you have a hierarchical position, and how to keep up that and let players play when it's time of playing. There's kind of dilemma that you have an idea that you are controlling learning, but that's not true. It's happening. You are not always in a high position to control, and you can see it on football games in Brazil now, that there are coaches moving their hands and shouting to players, but it's a kind of idea that they are controlling what they are doing. The players are not hearing, they are not looking this handshaking and so on. But when things are going well, then you can step aside and let things go. But you have to be in the same time sensitive. When there is happening something which you have to react, then you change players or you do something. And that's perhaps the most challenging in our university, that we have experts from different disciplines. If you put filmmakers, brain researchers, business people to work together, which is the key idea, that we need experts to work together, then there is diversity is a resource, but it's always this coaching, how you put these different kind of people to work together, and you have this respect on the background.
Maybe we can take a few questions from the room, and then to have a bit your questions, your reactions before we move forward. What do you think? I'm sure you have lots of questions.
Oui, bonsoir. Moi, je serai un tout petit peu plus mesurée. Je vais me présenter. Donc, je suis Catherine Janin, je suis directrice adjointe d'une école supérieure du professorat de formation, donc des enseignants en France. Et je serai un tout petit peu plus mesurée en termes de réussite. Je pense qu'un enseignant, enfin, par rapport à mon expérience, je ne pense pas que l'outil soit magique. Je pense que la posture de l'enseignant est fondamentale. Quand vous n'avez pas de problème, vous n'allez pas les résoudre tout seul. Enfin, je veux dire, quand on a des problèmes, on essaie de chercher et de les résoudre. Et les enfants, comme les adolescents et je dirais comme les adultes, on a un besoin. Et l'enseignant, de mon point de vue, qu'il soit avec des outils ou sans outils, doit créer vraiment le besoin de la découverte et du plaisir d'apprendre. Enfin, le contexte, pour moi, c'est ça fondamental. Après, les formes, elles peuvent prendre différentes formes. On l'a vu à l'ère de la vidéo, par exemple. C'était la même problématique à partir du moment où on rentre un outil nouveau. Et je pense que l'enseignant du XXIe siècle, et je rejoindrai certains points de vue, par rapport à son changement de rôle, mais c'est quand même lui qui amène le contexte d'apprentissage. Et je peux le vivre en tant qu'étudiante. On travaille sur une plateforme et je peux vous dire que c'est des cours classiques. La seule chose, ils sont mis sur un outil informatique. Donc du coup, j'ai accès à distance, oui, à la maison. Donc je sors mes textes, je fais mes résumés, je dépose mon travail. Mais en clair, je n'ai pas un changement de pratique en termes de plaisir ou de partage. parce qu'après il faut se calibrer par rapport au forum, il y a des contraintes qui sont plus importantes, enfin de mon point de vue, par rapport à l'outil en lui-même, et je pense que le rôle pour moi au XXIe siècle des enseignants sera encore plus fondamental peut-être qu'avant, par rapport aux pratiques professionnelles. Je dirais qu'il change, mais son rôle évolue énormément et est plus crucial d'un point de vue apprentissage scolaire et apprentissage, je dirais, sociétal.
So how do we train the teachers of tomorrow, basically? Because her testimony is about it's the point of view of someone who is working in what we call here école du professorat, so the school that are teaching to teachers to become teachers. And so the key point is, how do you create new learning environments, especially for the teachers, so that they can teach in a different way to their own kids. So how do you create a context for the teachers to empower them to create other contexts for the students?
Et du coup, juste pour compléter cette question, Malika, vous, justement, est-ce que c'est une initiative privée? Est-ce que c'est l'éducation nationale? Est-ce que vous participez à un projet pilote de l'éducation nationale? Est-ce que c'est une école publique? Enfin, d'où vous vient cette initiative et quels sont vos partenaires sur ce programme?
Non, donc clairement, il y a... Bon, j'ai participé il y a 3-4 ans à une première formation TNI. Moi, c'est l'outil. J'ai dit, waouh, il pourrait bien prolonger ma classe. Mes lectures, elles seront certainement plus attrayantes si j'introduisais mes images sur grand écran avec mes CP. Donc, et après, donc j'ai cherché des tablettes partout. J'ai jamais pu en avoir partout. Et un jour, en allant à un salon, je rencontre le CRDP, prête tablette, gratis. Donc je prends les premières tablettes, je les mets en groupe. Et là, c'était pendant 6 semaines une expérimentation où je les ai pratiquement données. Je leur ai dit, écoutez, voilà, vous avez une consigne, cette application, vous essayez. Et puis je les ai vraiment laissés en autonomie. Et là, j'ai vraiment vu des enfants se transformer, ne plus avoir du tout le même regard. Des enfants, pareil, pas envie d'écrire, se mettent à écrire beaucoup, se mettre à lire. Et là, j'ai dit, oui, ça, je le veux. Et après, je me suis débrouillée pour trouver les moyens pour pouvoir équiper ma classe. Donc c'est vraiment une initiative personnelle. Aujourd'hui, c'est vrai que je continue un peu de travailler avec Creatis parce que du coup, ça me permet d'avoir certains outils, notamment le robot actuellement. Mais c'est vraiment personnel. Et moi, je pense que il est vrai que ça peut être n'importe quel outil, que la posture de l'enseignante est primordiale. Mais on va plus loin quand même avec l'outil. On va prolonger d'autres choses. On va créer d'autres formes d'interaction. On va rentrer dans cette culture numérique et on va l'insérer dans les pratiques et dans la tête des élèves. Et je pense qu'il ne faut pas négliger le fait qu'en mettant en place ces outils, on entre dans une culture, dans une autre culture, dans un autre rapport à l'autre, dans un autre rapport au savoir, et c'est pas rien. Donc après, il faut questionner cette culture, il faut l'interroger par rapport à des valeurs, ce que je fais aussi dans la classe, puisque nous avons monté cette année un projet qui est porteur de valeurs, parce que je pense que le numérique, la culture numérique doit s'accompagner avec des valeurs, en plus de la pratique, de la posture et d'un contenu.
Olivier? Yeah.
No more answer for the first questions. I just wanted to ask another question. I've been touring the world for something like 7 years, seeing innovation in education in many different places, and I think it's incredible. You see many, many things in mobile learning, many things in the extreme countries where people invent new way of doing things in science, in art, and many different things. But as a global trend, there are also some downside to it, which I would like to ask you, how do you feel about it? I take two examples. India, where 85 million people are able to code, if I'm right, today in India. But at the same time, when you read Martha Nussbaum, you see that in many countries, in many places like Gujarat, where people code, where they're good at STEMs, the kind of democracy is suffering a lot from this, because people are learning with the tools, but they don't know how to have empathy, how to listen to the others. And I know that working in projects and groups helps. But as a global trend, there's a lot of learning to test and good results. And I was in Britain for a while, for a few months, and Michael Gove was doing a reform at one point which didn't go through the Minister of Education about the e-back and taking out all the creative subject from the because he wants to catch up Singapore, and Singapore say it doesn't work with us. It doesn't work anymore, our system. And what I'm talking about is the risk of containerization of learning. You can make learning cheaper through technology. You make it more personalized, maybe to some extent, but there's a big risk with an international competition of using all these tools not for their creative aspect and all what they can offer, but on a global trend about making containerization and unique way through Google's and others. So how do you see the risks of technology applied to learning also, and for the teachers too? Just
Norbert?
Can I just add, because it's on the same line, je pense principalement il y a une question du valeur. I think the professor was talking about fetishism. So I was really sharing the enthusiasm of the young generation. Yeah. So 18 years old, fantastic. Google, the new gateway, but just think that Google is a private corporation which has to make money. And this goes to the center of the problem. So everything is nice, everything is good, we have this revolution, but where are the values? And I think that's exactly where perhaps the teachers can find their role as a kind of gateway for the values, because the machine will teach us, but where does this lead us? Into a kind of Orwellian state at the end? So where are the values? I think that's important.
How do we harness the real potential you're talking about and not go into the direction we don't want to have a technology take us?
Exactly.
I think at the end of the day, that's a question for a public debate, and the extent to which public debate can inform educational aims. You're absolutely right that we're witnessing a vast range of transformations driven by what might, as a shorthand, be called by the neoliberal project, which looks at education as a commodity and applies market forces to education. And clearly, that is one way of looking at technology and deploying technology. But it is not the only way of doing it. And I think given that by and large, we are talking about the use of taxpayers' money, public funds for educational aims. It's really a matter of setting up clear aims as to what we're wanting to achieve at the end of the day. So I don't think, in short, that technology need necessarily be associated with the negative trends that you outlined, but I fully grant you that it can be and probably often is. But if you look at the sort of list of affordances that I tried to articulate earlier on, I think you also see that looking at the ways in which technologies are being used by young people in particular, but not only young people. There's a nice phrase by an American colleague called Jim Paul G, who some of you might know from the world of video games. He talks about passionate affinity spaces. And he's done a very interesting analysis to actually see, to try and understand what makes technology effective. And what he points out is that some of the prerequisites that we have used, or the parameters that we have used to organize our education systems in the Western world by and large. For example, the fact that you are not grouped with people who share your passion or your interest in particular topics, but you're grouped with people who happen to be born between two particular dates, yeah, is one such thing, yeah, and there is a number of others. I really think it's not about looking at the sort of necessarily dystopian scenario of technology, but looking at the a positive side of the spectrum, looking at the way in which technology can harness the agency of the individual and apply their passion to the learning context. Because at the end of the day, as Matti said, it's extremely important to be motivated, because learning is hard and you need to be able to apply many hours in order to develop. Most of us, there's obviously some who don't, but most of us devote many hours to develop proficiency, a skill, a knowledge, and so forth. And technology can help us in that. If we understand what it can do and if we use it correctly. So I wouldn't really want technology to be sort of argued into a corner of necessarily being the cause for the trends that you outline. But you're absolutely right. We see transformations in culture, in the economy, in society, in education, everywhere, and technology does play its part.
Une question du coup pour les étudiants de l'école 42, parce que je crois qu'il y en a ici, pour rebondir sur la question d'Olivier et la remarque de Roland. Who is teaching ethics in your school? Qui enseigne l'éthique chez vous? Est-ce que ça fait partie du curriculum ou du non-curriculum? Enfin voilà, est-ce que vous avez des réflexions à partager sur ce sujet-là? Et peut-être avec Olivier, sous contrôle d'Olivier ou non? Parce qu'il n'y a pas de contrôle en fait.
Donc, voilà, piégé. Nous apprendre l'éthique, on vient, il n'y a pas besoin enfin, chacun apporte son idée de l'éthique, donc on ne nous l'apprend pas, on ne nous force pas à apprendre. On n'a pas des cours là-dessus, on fait 100% plein de projets d'IT et de code, et c'est...
Parce que chaque outil peut être utilisé dans un sens ou dans un autre, donc comment vous construisez finalement un sens qui va utiliser le code au service idéalement du bien commun?
Pour l'instant, en première année, on travaille surtout le côté technique. Le côté éthique viendra de son initiative personnelle, je pense. Mais
on a une grosse culture open source.
Oui,
un point de départ
de partage.
Avoir suivi le forum tout au long de l'année régulièrement, on voit régulièrement des gens qui se posent justement des questions. Est-ce qu'on va trop loin? Est-ce qu'on doit en faire plus? Est-ce qu'on doit en faire moins? Sur tout un tas d'éléments, principalement autour de la vie en communauté, pas tant pour l'instant des aspects techniques. On aura des aspects techniques axés justement sur la sécurité informatique, où là je pense qu'il y a des débats éthiques, techniques qui interviendront. Mais déjà la vie en communauté amène quand même, ne serait-ce que sur les notions de respect, comment, où est-ce que, jusqu'où on peut aller, jusqu'où quelqu'un peut avancer, ou au contraire, est-ce qu'on doit mettre des limites? Est-ce que les limites doivent être mises par le staff? Est-ce que les limites doivent être mises entre les étudiants eux-mêmes? Il y a ces débats-là qui sont assez présents dans les forums quand même.
Ouais, on peut confirmer, les débats sont surtout sur le forum. Parce que c'est la vie en communauté, il y a beaucoup de partage. Voilà. Mais juste pour vous, madame, je vous félicite pour votre initiative qui est quand même assez particulière. Et je vais vous demander, pour ce qui est, est-ce que vous pensez que votre initiative va poursuivre dans d'autres établissements? Et est-ce que...
Bon, je pense qu'il est important que ça puisse se poursuivre. Je pense que aujourd'hui, les textes sont clairs, introduire le numérique, les textes portent et nous poussent à les amener de plus en plus, à les introduire de plus en plus. Donc c'est indispensable que le corps enseignant se mobilise. Donc je pense que oui, les choses vont avancer. Alors c'est vrai qu'aujourd'hui, on avance un peu au rythme des équipements. Malheureusement, c'est un peu ce qui freine certains enthousiasmes. l'enthousiasme de certains professeurs qui du coup attendent un peu les équipements pour pouvoir avancer aussi. Donc on a différents profils d'enseignants, mais je pense que la tendance ne peut que s'accentuer, quoi. C'est indispensable puisque nos élèves sont déjà tous équipés à la maison, donc leur apprendre uniquement sur du papier quand à la maison ils font beaucoup plus vite avec d'autres outils, ça va finir par plus pouvoir fonctionner, quoi, très longtemps, quoi. Donc c'est indispensable.
Merci.
Marty had a point of view, and then Vincent.
I just want to comment this issue of do you have ethics in your curricula and so on. And actually this is also related to this teacher education question, that we still have a mental set that there must be a discipline ethics or lessons of ethics, but it's related to the idea of learning community and values of the community and code of conducts. So that if we think about teacher education, it's a total change of the learning community at university educating teachers and using different kind of tools, but the key thing is how we do learn and collaborate and so on. And I think in your school you are building this ethics through this code of conducts and what kind of what is the mental mindset at school. And we at Aalto University we have nice examples of that. For instance, these factories we have, and they are not hidden rules or codes. They are articulated codes that when you are working here, you have to clean the classroom. You respect each others. You when a stranger come in, you go immediately to say hello, who are you, can I help you? These kind of small things are little by little changing this mode.
Alors pour ajouter et puis pour répondre au monsieur qui parlait de Google justement et des jeunes, alors j'ai peut-être eu l'air un petit peu trop naïf, mais la NSA on est au courant quand même. Donc en fait si j'ai dit Google tout à l'heure, c'était pour dire quelque chose d'assez large, mais c'est plutôt la philosophie Internet. Je prends un exemple assez simple, c'est celui du peer-to-peer. C'est vraiment cette idée-là, cette idée du client et serveur, et non plus un gros serveur et un petit client. C'est plus en fait montrer que on est façonné par ça. Bon, Google, voilà, j'ai cité Google, j'ai eu le malheur de citer Google parce que c'est vrai que Google c'est pas la meilleure référence sur Internet. Il y a aujourd'hui des startups innovantes qui sont beaucoup plus saines que Google et qui font de l'argent sur autre chose que des données personnelles et de la revente à destination publicitaire, mais je crois plutôt que l'école doit être là aussi pour politiser les jeunes sur ces questions. Parce qu'en fait, il faut que les jeunes que nous sommes se posent des questions effectivement sur le monde dans lequel on est et qu'on ne soit pas passif face à un système qui aujourd'hui nous dit ben voilà, c'est gratuit, utilisez-le, c'est bien, voilà, Facebook, Twitter. Parce qu'effectivement, on voit beaucoup de jeunes qui sont beaucoup sur ces grands sites-là, Google, Facebook, Twitter, qu'on appelle les GAFA, et qui ne vont pas sur d'autres sites alors que la toile est immense. Et en politisant les jeunes, je crois que tout le monde essaye de faire ici, on peut arriver à ce que les jeunes se posent les bonnes questions et arrêtent, en tout cas en partie, d'utiliser ces outils-là et en créent d'autres. Parce que l'école aujourd'hui nous permet de comprendre le monde, je crois. Par contre, l'école ne nous permet pas de changer le monde. Et je crois que c'est important de changer le monde. Alors, peut-être que je suis un peu utopiste, j'avoue, j'ai 18 ans, donc bon là j'ai la vie devant moi. Mais je pense que ce qui est important quand on est ici, sur Terre, voilà, c'est de changer le monde. Et aujourd'hui, on ne peut pas le faire avec l'école, avec les outils qu'on nous donne. Et je suis certain que demain, on pourra changer le monde. Voilà.
Oui.
Okay. Just building. just building
No,
on
but
what
I think
you
I had some
said.
point of view also about that. To share.
Yeah, maybe we can just build on what you said. I think that on the one hand, I agree also to what Marty said before, that the ethics topic is essential when dealing with information technology, but it should be something that is implicit. So it's not about separating it. It's really about building it into also the organizations that produce ICT and that produce our new services. So therefore, personally, I'm also saying that the direction that Google has is not the right one to say we're not evil. So they should rather say we're potentially evil, and we need to be aware of it. And with every new service that we are creating, we need to be aware that we are potentially evil. And so we need to build this awareness into the way how we design. And and I like your point about you want also to design and to build, and this brings me to another question, and back to the question also of coding. There is the famous motto: "Program or be programmed." Yeah, are we shaper of this world that is determined by new technologies, or are we just consumer? Are we just the ones who receive the nice products, whatever, from Google, or are we really building something up? So I want just you to comment a bit on this.
Justement, toute la question, c'est de ne pas être esclave de la technologie. Et pour ne pas être esclave de la technologie, il faut la comprendre. Donc il faut comprendre le code, mais il faut avoir une culture politique aussi, et la culture du numérique entre dans cette question-là, parce qu'aujourd'hui, on ne l'apprend pas et on ne sait pas ce que c'est la culture du numérique. Comment c'est créer Internet? Ça, c'est une bonne question. Qu'est-ce qu'on fait avec ça? Pourquoi aujourd'hui il y a des objets connectés? Parce que demain, en fait, si on a beaucoup d'objets connectés autour de nous, alors effectivement, il y a tout un système après capitaliste, l'économie, bon, on achète, on est des consommateurs, bon. Mais en fait, on sera esclave de ces systèmes si on ne peut pas les changer, si on ne peut pas les hacker. Là, oui, on sera esclave. Mais si on sait le faire, je ne vois pas pourquoi on serait esclave, puisqu'on peut faire ce qu'on veut avec les outils qu'on a à notre disposition. Voilà.
So how do we create a society of co-creator of knowledge and hackers?
Well, I think one of the very important things to understand is actually the processes that we're currently witnessing. I called them transformations a moment ago. But I think we really need to analyze them in order to be able to understand what contribution a school can make. Because school, as we know it today, was invented a fair few years ago under very, very different conditions. But the sort of basic assumptions haven't really changed, whereas the conditions have changed quite fundamentally. So if we think about what technology does, for example, in relation to knowledge, traditionally school is built on this notion of some sort of canonicity of knowledge that you can codify in something that tends to be called a curriculum and transmit to the new generation to enable them to partake in the cultural practices that societies have developed. Well, with technology, it becomes increasingly difficult to really think of knowledge in that way, because the knowledge has grown exponentially and continues to grow exponentially. It's extremely difficult to say what is really important and what will be important in a year, 2 years' time, 3 years' time, all these sorts of things. So there's a big issue there. Technology, building on your contribution, is based on very, very different sort of notions of authority. Yeah? It gives much more power and control to the learner, to the user, which sits fundamentally ill at ease with the cultural practices that have dominated schools for so many years, where there's one person in charge, and is the teacher, and the learners were meant to be guided by the teacher. Technology questions that, yeah? And so, to coming back to your question, what sort of paradigm do we prepare teachers for? Yeah? That's an interesting one. Also, in the age of effective use of technology, I think we're all agreed that some of the principles that underpin educational practices today, namely the effort and achievement of the individual and measuring those at the unit of the individual, sit fundamentally ill at ease with what technology is good at, namely collaboration, co-creation. So how are we going to deal with that? And there is a whole range of other issues. So there's a very interesting study by a colleague of mine at the University of Nottingham, Charles Crook, who looked at the use of social media in school contexts, and looked at the face of it. He found that yes, there's quite a considerable overlap of what happens in the world of social media and what's meant to happen in the world of school, around communication literacy, for example. But if you start to look in more detail, you see that these practices look very, very different in both contexts, and the notion of just taking the technology and implanting it into existing curriculum and way of doing things is not going to work, because there is a whole load of tensions built up there. So what do we do in terms of training teachers? Well, the UK government some 15 years ago, so I think, decided that one way might be to decree a set of standards and make sure around the use of technology, and I think there were 114 or something like that of them, that new teachers needed to demonstrate in order to be deemed to have the qualification to go in. That has stopped now, in part because you've got to reinvent standards all the time, because technology is changing, and with it what you have to do. So that wasn't a particularly successful approach. What I think has tended to work best is an approach that focuses on equipping teachers with personally, privately owned technology, and enabling the use of that technology in everyday practices, so they can find ways. So the technology use is not just something that's a one-off that you practice in a particular context, and you get to a different classroom and the configurations are different and you don't know what to do, but it's something that is embedded in your own cultural practices, both personally as well as professionally. And so the schemes that have focused on, subsidizing equipment purchase, or schools providing personal equipment for teachers, those have tended, based on the research that I've seen, bring about the best results. And in terms of the training, it was the collaboration of teachers rather than teachers working in isolation, attending a one-day training event, and then it was really training in pairs, going out, applying it in practice, coming back to training, sharing experiences, those sorts of collaborative processes that have worked best.
There is questions there. One again, over there. No? Okay, you.
Je compléterai ma question. J'ai travaillé alors sur des articles, je ne l'ai pas vu en vrai, sur l'école Quest to Learn, qui accueille et qui, en termes de contexte d'apprentissage, propose aux enfants à peu près de 6 à 12 ans des contextes de projets et des contextes d'évaluation qui sont dans la même mesure que ces projets. Et en termes de démarche pédagogique mise en œuvre, moi je trouve honnêtement ça extraordinaire, puisque l'outil n'est qu'au service du projet des élèves. On inverse. Enfin, moi, c'est ça, c'est cette vraie question, parce que l'outil pour l'outil, je dirais que ça ne sert pas à grand-chose, entre guillemets, en termes d'apprentissage. Et surtout, ce que je trouve très intéressant dans ces contextes-là, c'est qu'en réalité, on peut transférer des compétences. Parce que l'enjeu d'écrire pour écrire, si on n'a pas les codes sociaux, c'est un peu dommage pour plus tard. Parce qu'il y a les codes aussi. Parce que la culture française n'est pas la culture anglo-saxonne, mine de rien, sur un bon nombre de codes et sur un bon nombre d'apprentissages. Donc c'est vrai que moi, je suis en plus j'enseignantiste, donc j'ai aucun souci pour le dire. C'est qu'outre l'outil, l'apprentissage, je dirais que les valeurs et les codes sociaux, vous changez de pays, les codes sociaux ne sont pas les mêmes, vous n'allez pas écrire de la même manière par rapport à ces outils, le regard. Et c'est vrai que cette école-là, ce que je trouve très très intéressant, c'est les contextes d'apprentissage qu'elle peut proposer.
So she was just talking about Quest to Learn, which is an innovative model in New York, built by Katie Salen, using games as a really the core of the pedagogy. So I'm sure you know this case. So she was saying that she's really interested by this new learning context and the way actually the teachers are using games, but with a purpose and with ethics and with social learning. So maybe someone from the round table want to share something on that?
Yes, just a comment on that. I think the point is that we have to synchronize what the children are living at home about technology and what they have to they live in class. And I think at home they are not all spending all their time on technology too, and they will be able to have the same discussion with their parents about ethics, about how to use technology, that they can have with a teacher in the classroom too. So maybe it's not we need this kind of balance actually. Here at School 42, everything is about IT, but it's because I have the right population and the right level of IT integration for my population. And in each school, in each country, it can be different, and it's the role of the teacher to just adjust and adapt this level of technology and as a mean to access to learn and also just use the technology just like it is. Don't try to force the technology in a specific way for learning, but just let the children use technology just like they use it at home. So it's more not natural for them, and I think it's easier to control and to avoid some too much of technology actually.
One last question.
Yeah, there was a question.
And then we'll go to have a drink next door.
So you talk about
The best part.
Okay, you talk about motivation, about autonomy and responsibility. I would like to add something other. I would like to add freedom. And I think freedom is very important in learning. And I suggest you to have a look about the film, Being and Becoming by Clara Bellard. This film is on in Saint-André-des-Arts in Paris, and it's talk about natural learning, about homeschooler families living in the States, in Great Britain, Germany, and France, and about freedom in learning, especially. And I think also that it should be a very interesting collaboration between school and homeschooler families.
There is a big movement of homeschooling and unschooling, actually, and especially unschooling. So maybe we can end up with this question of unschooling. What are your perspectives on that? And maybe Norbert, from what you've seen around the world, or Marty, what are your perspectives on that?
Well, there are obviously various hypotheses around about what the future of school holds. Speaking personally, I would not like to see a model in which technology replaces school, because school is a very, very important social place of learning. But I do think that we need to think about the way in which we organize schools and provide the key agents with the necessary skills and wherewithal to be successful. So it's not just about making available technology. That's very important. Leadership is also very important. School leaders having the right dispositions and understanding. Operating distributed leadership models that allow relevant people within school hierarchies to use technologies effectively. Create learning spaces that are conducive to learning. And maybe look at new principles of organizing the school and the school day. And there's lots of different examples, very interesting examples all around the world. But the one thing I would like to pick up is the danger, I think. One of the reasons why technology hasn't really worked as well in school as it might have, personally speaking, is the fact that the main technologies that I have seen used in school have not tended to be developed for learning purposes, but our product have been designed around productivity paradigms that have been then put to use in school, and teachers had the challenge of making that technology, which was used for very developed for very different purposes, work for their purposes. So I would actually argue for the development of bespoke and specific tools that promote and foster the sorts of practices that teachers know from experience are important to support and bring about learning, and not trying very hard to make technology that hasn't been designed for this purpose work for a particular purpose.
There is a whole field still to be built of creating learning technologies that will be meaningful, ethical, and helping really the learning processes of the learners. Okay, what I suggest, it's already almost 9. We have prepared a drink, so wine and a few things to chill out and to continue to exchange together. So it's just next door on the left, if you want to share a last drink and last questions with the speakers and also among us, because as we were saying, we're building a community of co-creator of knowledge, so we have to learn as much as we will teach, I guess, tonight. Thanks a lot to the speakers.